need to make a short presentation, about 30-minute presentation, and then after that we'll have the discussion. And the title of our presentation will be Healthy Families and a Healthy Church. So Amma, from myself, will do the presentation, and Amma will set the ball rolling.
So for the presentation, we're going to go over a couple of just broad perspectives on what a healthy family is and how you can achieve that or how you can work at it. And then we're going to go towards the panel, and then the panel is going to answer some questions, and we're going to get the ball flowing that way. So we're going to start with the characteristics of a healthy family. And these are just a selection, a few characteristics that there are present in a healthy family. There are more than just this. We have that you have to have a deep commitment to one another. So everyone needs to be involved and committed to making the family go in the right direction. You need to have family time as a top priority. So you want to take certain time out of the day to focus on family, sometimes out of the week, sometimes out of the month, plan something as a family. You want to communicate in a way that's constructive. So you don't want to just say whatever you want to say off the chest, but you want to talk in a way that can help the family grow, that can be understood by other people. Then you want to also be sincere when you show appreciation and affection, because we can, as humans, we're able to feel when people are insincere with their affection. And affection is also something that we crave. So you want to be sure that you show that and that you are strong and committed in that one too. We also have to look out for one another, and that ties into being committed as a family, because no one else is going to have your back like your family does. You are raised together, we grow up together, we live together. You should have the back of another family member. You want to resolve conflicts in a timely manner. Now, that doesn't mean that every conflict is going to be resolved within minutes, hours, days, whatever. It's just you want to resolve a conflict in as little amount of time as you can, that it could be constructive and that things can be moved accordingly. So sometimes that might look like you might be able to resolve the conflict in 5 minutes. Other times it might take you a couple weeks to resolve the conflict. And that just depends on the conflict and the people within the family. You want to have a spiritual commitment. You want to share that spiritual commitment too, because that helps the family grow. That helps everyone move in the same direction or in a similar direction. You also want to have mutual respect. Now, respect is a big thing. Everyone wants to be respected. From a little baby up till however old you can be, everyone wants to be respected. It's something we should be doing. Because if you talk to each other in a respectful way, or you treat each other in a respectful way, you can reduce conflicts, because now people aren't feeling upset or feeling slighted in any way. You also want to recognize, respect, and support the differences. Even though we grew up in the same households or we grew up in the same families, we have our own experiences. So people are different regardless of all of that.
So at this point, what I want to do is that's what is needed so that our families will become strong and healthy. The next thing we want to talk about then is about the need to build and nourish a strong spiritual foundation. As I said, used to be the few honum, and that's always very, very important. And under that, what we are saying is that the scripture is very clear. So we need family members, say committed to first to the Lord, then to each other, and then to the church. And that is why having strong families, is always important, and it helps build a church. So under that, we're saying that Christ first, last, and best always. And then we need to focus on personal devotion. We're not saying it's family worship is important, very, very important. But at least we need to bring our kids up in such a way that they are independent, and rather have a strong relationship with the Lord. And then also say intercessory prayer is also very important. And in the family, we need to place high priority on youth and children. Jesus said that in Matthew 18, 4-6, and then 12-16. What can we also do? Timely conflict resolution is very important. So something happens. And there are two things I want us to think about. There's no problem with being part of a family. Pastor Fum, Ashley, any you junior, the members of the family. So say having a family is not a problem. Rather, Pastor Fum is a problem. And Anchor from Pong is a problem because it's a human being. So family members will have problems. They will have your problems, and that is important to understand. Say your family together, and it's not a problem. The problem rather is the family members are your individual problems. The next one is what Max Lucado said, which is very interesting. I wanted to share with you this afternoon. It says conflict is inevitable, but combat is optional. Even me dins I was there, but see they couldn't talk about prayer when they have a buffy or any there. Or say, I know we can choose to do that, but say, it's a fact. So, timely conflict management is very important. And what we wanted to focus on is a different way, and what happens in the boy and separately, uniquely. And until we have to understand and accept that. And when there are conflicts, I say accept it. We don't have time to go into we don't have to go into all the conflicts, the types of conflicts. Okay, we've been told to stop sharing. I'm not sure. Okay. But slides, Okay, thank you. And so what we tried to, sorry about that, what we tried to say, and then I said, conflict here, ABC, because it's different, and we look at problems differently, but how to resolve those conflicts is very important. And the different types of conflicts are based on the data. As some Obi Kana is a fact, the Obi so because uncraft facts you have to manage that. And then there are times that conflicts in the just because of opinions. And yet based on fact. Let me again say, we should be careful about that. And then also one problem about a power conflict. And then there are times that one thing I want to talk about is unnecessary conflict. I do have yeah, Trinity, how Abba, and we need to avoid that. So the next one, and I'm busy. Come on, some kakra, and so a year. And here say if your families are going to be healthier, and here say you be give and receive feedback. And I quickly, briefly want to go to 3 different things. There's a model that I'm aware of, and it's called the SBI model. S is for the word situation, B is for behavior, and I is the impact. Here say BBC it me a try doing na bibi cause any it me can. But we are all over the place. Now, what this model teaches says so what you resolve a conflict now in terms of providing the feedback. Here say or clarify the specific situation. And here say it me can say Mary and Ra Anopa 7 o'clock, Brani Kohano. We are way anyway. So a person knows exactly what you are talking about. Because be an man will be recording Ra until we shall say no is here him. And then you identify and describe the behavior. For me, I need the most difficult thing because the challenge we have is most of the time we state our impression. Like I said, you were rude yesterday. You are virtually interpreting what actually happened, but you are judging the situation. Rather, you're saying, say, okay, ebra and ra namami kasano okate off. So that is the behavior I want to describe. Because the moment he says, you are rude, no, as long as you're not doing mono, if it's not only rude, no, she's going to be on the defensive and try to justify that until Ubia until Yonko Enka. And that I know is a challenge, but we need to identify the behavior and describe the behavior. The third one is the impact, which is focused on and explain your reaction to the behavior. So as I said, it's me show, cut mommy off, me say now we root or say, let me who say the name from the name say, the near and your home. And then Amma can explain, oh, I didn't mean to do that. You know, if I did that, then I'm sorry, I need to apologize to her. So that's what happens.
So while we're working on building family relationships, we're going to address how you do that now. And we can start by first, you need to recognize and respect your differences. It's how we talked about in the beginning. We're all different and we need to acknowledge that we're different, but also be willing to accept that you can't make somebody become like you, and you shouldn't be trying to become like someone. God made us beautifully and differently, and that is okay. You want to show mutual respect despite these differences. So the same way in schools or with your coworkers, you're all different and you have to work together. You have to do that within the family too. It doesn't change just because you're of blood or you're of one household. You need to be able to sympathize and empathize with each other while you are living with each other too. So with empathy, sometimes you can relate to what they're feeling. So you can relate that way, but there are times when you may not necessarily relate to what they are feeling, but you have to try to understand how they're feeling anyway. You have to put yourself in their shoe, in their perspective, to try to understand where they're coming from. So you might do something that might upset them, or something might happen that might upset them, that you might not understand why it upsets them. Because if it happened to you, you wouldn't have a problem with it. But you need to understand that that person is different from you. And whatever affects them will affect them differently than it affects you. And that is okay. You need to be able to communicate openly and clearly, because communication is key. Without that, your whole family dynamic will be a mess. So you want to be able to talk freely to each other. When something is wrong, you need to be able to speak on it, because if you aren't able to communicate that, then you're going to have cracks that build, and then they're going to become even worse and worse and worse. Before you know it, everything falls apart. You want to lead courageously. It's not easy leading, and everyone knows that, but like, you still have to take the charge. Someone needs to do it. So you still have to take the charge and try to move the family in a course that is a good one. And part of being that leader is understanding that you're not going to know everything. And sometimes other people within the family are going to have better responses than you do. And when it comes to that time, you need to listen, and it's okay to listen. It doesn't matter if the person who's saying it is the oldest member or the youngest member of the family. When it comes to moving the family down a good course, you need to listen to whoever has the best idea or response to it. You need to also establish a level of trust. That goes with the open communication, because if there's not a level of trust, then there's not going to be things that are addressed that need to be addressed. The difficult topics will never be touched on, but if those topics are never touched on, then you can never grow or learn from them, which means that people are going to be sent out into the world without a full understanding of how things work. You also need to learn and unlearn continuously. So just because you've been doing something for however many years does not mean that it's the right thing to do. So when you come across something that you've been doing for, let's say, maybe 20 years, and it's a habit for you, but you're learning that it's not a good habit, just because you've done it for 20 years doesn't mean you continue to do it for 20 more years. When you learn that something is bad, you have to try and unteach yourself it. And so there are moments where you're going to have to unteach the family dynamic as a whole. And then there are going to be moments where you're learning things, you're adding things. So the whole relationship is going to be taking and subtracting from it. You want to be patient. Patient is key, because again, everyone's mind works differently. So everyone is coming from a different perspective. So you want to try with the whole sympathize and empathize. You want to try and understand where people are coming. You want to give people time to get to where you're going to also. And you want to be able to adapt to how things are going. You may plan and plan and plan as much as you want, but life isn't always set in stone. So things are going to come and go as they please. And you just have to be able to change course when necessary and go with the flow. Then you want to create an emotionally and mentally safe environment. This is key to families. These are things that every family should have. Your family should be a place where you feel safe emotionally and mentally and physically also. So humans, every single one of us crave safety or a safe environment when it comes to emotions and our mental state. It's something that we all want and something that we all need. So what that state looks like is all members of the family are able to state their opinions, thoughts, wants, dreams, desires, and feelings without fear of being slammed, shamed, belittled, or even dismissed. So these are things that people want. Everyone wants that environment where they can speak freely without fear of how the backlash is going to be, or without fear of how they're going to be criticized or pushed down for it. So you create the family dynamics that result in a mentally and emotionally safe environment for everybody. That's what you need to work towards. That's the goal that you're working towards. And not only is this supported in psychology of the family, but also in the Bible. If you go to 1 Corinthians 13, 4, verse 7, I know a lot of people know that that's the whole scripture on love and what love is. And then you have Matthew 7, 21, which talks about doing unto others as you want done unto you. These are things that put you in place that if a family is supposed to be meant for love, and if a family is supposed to care for each other, then you're going to treat each other the way that you would also want to be treated, which means you put yourself in the other person's shoe. So you try to understand why they would feel the way that they're doing. And you don't try and do things that you know will upset them or put them in an uncomfortable state, because you don't want that done to you also. So that's an important thing to do. We also have to watch what we say to ourselves and to everybody else. So like that might mean that some of the tones we use, we might have to change, because some people may not respond well to the tones that we use to them. Some of the words we use, some people might have to change or something like that. Or for example, when we're teasing, you might need to be a little gentler with some people when you're teasing, and maybe less so with other people, because people respond differently. So just because one member of the family can take your teasing doesn't mean that everyone else can too. So you need to be aware of who in the family you're specifically talking to. Don't generalize the entire family. Understand that each person is different, and understand how you need to talk to each person to get it across. Also, you need to give people space when they need it. Honestly, sometimes, and it's a hard thing because we're all in enclosed spaces, or we want to know everything that's going on with people, but you need to give that space so that people can have their privacy when they need it. People don't always want to talk about things. People don't always need to talk about things. Sometimes people need that time to themselves because it can be overwhelming to always be around people. And that's okay. With that in mind, you also want to be sure that with the privacy, you have to be selective with that also. It's not everything that needs to be pushed under the rug, or it's not everything that you leave someone to figure out on their own. Sometimes you're going to need to step in. But you figure out when to step in and when to give someone space by spending time with that person, understanding where they're coming from, learning how they speak, learning how they work. You also want to allow people to change and grow as time passes. So that means you don't hold grudges against them. You don't hold them to their past mistakes, but instead you allow them to grow. When they grow, you acknowledge that they've grown. You acknowledge the changes that they've made, and you celebrate it. And then you encourage them to continue on that path. Because if you're constantly telling someone, bringing up things that they did, that they don't do anymore, it doesn't help them. In fact, it's more likely to push them back into that position where they were before. So an example would be like, oh, if for example, if a kid used to maybe not clean up, but they're doing it more now, if the one time they mess up again, you bring it back to maybe 5 years ago, when all those times that they didn't clean up, it's going to push the kid to be frustrated, because they're going to be like, well, in 5 years, I've worked so hard, but it doesn't seem like you care that I've worked hard. And it works. And that also applies to parents too. When you see your parents change, acknowledge it and encourage it and celebrate it. Don't bring up past mistakes constantly, because it doesn't help to move forward. And we also need to be willing to give an apology when it is necessary. When you've done someone wrong, it is necessary to give an apology. It may not seem like much, but an apology is actually a very huge thing. A lot of people depend on it, and a lot of people use it to help them heal, because it tells the person that you understand that they were wronged, that you understand that you made a mistake, and it gives them hope that there's a change in the future that can come from that. And as a family, we may not need to know everything about each other. There are some things that people might want to keep personally to themselves, and that is okay. You don't have to know everything. They might not want to share that. You might be curious, but curiosity doesn't mean that you deserve to know it or that you have to know it. Sometimes you need to allow people to have their own secrets, their own things to themselves. And this also does require some discretion, because some things should be shared, but others maybe not so. But this also comes with knowing who you're talking to.
So the other thing that's also important to realize, and I say, in the family that the needs that we have are quite different. Different in the sense, I say there are social needs. Nipa and house or non. And then there are emotional needs. It will be no be raho. It will not be any agent. Then there are physical needs. It will be no be on emobu untimin pijao nine. And then the spiritual needs, which is very important. Then temperamentally, you're different. It be introvert. It be on timin kanun konipum. Ubonza assembly train anymore. Obeka ubonza debia or ninkofubre namfo. And then there are developmental needs. Osa oyakora o nyini afuna dwumu ABA. Educational needs and psychological needs, or additional, all these needs are important. We need to recognize them so that we can have a healthy family. And then, as Amma said earlier on, we need to understand, respect, and promote differences. There are a lot of differences that we know occur within our families.
So with these differences, what that means is you have to acknowledge that people come from different perspectives. That means people look at things in different ways. And that's because you have different experiences, different knowledge and understanding. So your education is different. Your experiences will be different because you're not together 100% of the time. You also need to understand that some are American Ghanaians and some are Ghanaian Americans. What I mean by that is that the mindset might be slightly more American for someone who is maybe raised here, someone who's spent most of their childhood here, someone who was born here, versus someone who is raised or spent most of their time in Ghana or born in Ghana. The mindsets might be different, and you have to realize the cultural implications of that, of whatever you're going through. You can't expect the person to be like you. You can't be like, oh, well, we were in America now, so I expect you to be American. That's not how that works. You also can't be like, well, you're in a Ghanaian household and I'm Ghanaian, so I expect you to be Ghanaian. It doesn't work like that. You have to acknowledge the fact that we come from different areas. We're raised in different cultures slightly. You also have to acknowledge that the temperaments might be different. So something that might get somebody angry someone might be getting angry a little quicker. Someone might be a little bit more calmer in most cases. You have to know who you're dealing with within the family. It's very important to understand and not put whatever issues you want onto the person or try to force a person into a mold, because we're all gonna be different anyway. And that's okay. You want to learn and unlearn from each other and the word of God continuously as you move along in this path.
So this part is also very important. Based on the differences, we need to understand each family is unique. You don't have to necessarily think that that's how your family should be. Because the Bible talks about we have been fearfully and wonderfully made. And separately, unique, even differences. So the fact said, different near what family no more, be a ma, be a mema, be any, be Isha, and temperaments near idea I'm account once a mina. What is very, very good for a family A, and it doesn't mean say in every situation the solution to the problem of family A, the man is the same solution of family B. So it's a effort. Until we have to understand that. Because terrible honor, you look at the B family and then you think say your family should be mirrored after that family. The other ones also say we need to understand, say in our families there are roles that will be different and that will be reversed. I wish we had time to talk about this because this is very important. We don't appreciate that, so it creates problems for us. So we're talking about the teacher-student. Okay, as a parent, if you are fitting as a church or a bedroom stage beyond school, and then economics, finances in your then realize that now you become the student. You have to accept that as a parent. If you don't, it creates problems because the fact that may penny and may fitting as a child then doesn't mean say forever and ever on a better my dear. Don't talk about the coach and developer. Mentor and mentee. It'll be over crying, would be now or Juma say, Nani may be and then your daughter comes to you and she tries to tell you what it be an agreement and you will be a go through. Then it gets to a point where you realize that you're more or less like peers, more adults. You give birth at the age of 21 to your child. So by the time over 22 now, Bano A2, Ubanya 42 now, Bana A 22, 20, Over 62, no 42. Boko age 2 no 62. By American standards, we senior citizens. What makes you think say as I said can be offer? No. Oh, difference of 20 years, what happens? And then I said, over 90 or 70. Are you going to say it's still our bad on o can't be a short transit? Come on to me. Yeah, on our own, but at that point, no, or we have some information. And then in terms of training, NAE, that happens. So we have to understand, say in the family, some of those roles will change, and especially for us as parents, and also for the young people. The stage, now on certain issues, you may even be the breadwinner in the home because of mommy say and answer and then say a build a talent, any cheerleading, any grieving. And then it comes to leading and following. Based on the knowledge of Baba, you have to follow and then it will be leading. Then decision maker. About the stage, now you're no longer the decision maker. I remember a very interesting incident that happened a few years ago. Me free, maybe I teen, I'm saying me call them a five year. Me do hold on, I do can't tell me call them some of them refi. Until the sound from the was I didn't, no, so I didn't some confirm refi or so now you see that very soon we'll be making decisions for you. We're going to decide where we're going to take you. and he was joking, but it was a very, very important point. You get to a point where no longer do you have the capacity and to make a decision. See, when you're going to an adult home and I say, yeah, they would have to make the choice. We check, and they will have to sign. So those things are very important. And in that case, and what happens, but when the decision-making process was such, say, you didn't show love and respect her. And if by God's grace they have not learned something better, then you may be treated with contempt at a time when you're on the receiving end of those decisions that they're going to make. So we need to appreciate the family roles are different. People grow into different roles. And then there are times where the possibility that those roles would be reversed. Instead of being a decision maker, you would have to accept somebody making a decision. And when there's respect and love in the family, we will be able to deal with these things very well. The next point is about family religious instruction, which precedes because what we're talking about this afternoon is healthy families, is equal to a healthy church. And so the goal here is that we need to have family religious instruction, which precedes what we have in the church. So the home religion is really important. We need to focus on that and address that. And having said that, we get to the point where we can say,
the church is one family with Christ as the foundation. That is a key part of it. It's part of your family dynamic. It's part of the church dynamic. Jesus should be the foundation of everything that we do. So you need the effective spiritual growth that flourishes in small groups, which you can find in these scriptures over here. So the first small group will be you and Christ. Then the second small group would be the family members with Christ. And then the third tier of that would be families and Christ and the local church. So each level has an added part to it. And you need to be able to be with Christ with each level. So you need a relationship with Christ, not just in the church, not just amongst your families, but also within yourselves too. And you need commitment of members first to the Lord, then to each other, and then to the church. And that's how it should be structured. Communication within the family. So you need verbal communication, which would be expressing through words, teaching and listening verbally, all these things. So you want to be able to listen to what people are saying verbally, but you also need nonverbal communication. You need to understand each other's characters. You need to understand what people aren't saying to you. So their reactions to things that they're doing, their behaviors. Sometimes somebody might wake up feeling some type of not great that day. And they may not tell you that they're feeling bad or they're in a bad mood, but just if you know them, you'll see how they're feeling based off of how they're acting and how they're doing. So body languages are very important. How people dress, how people walk, all of these things are things that we should notice about the people in our household, because not everything is going to be stated outright to you. Sometimes you have to listen to the things that aren't said. You have to listen to what can't be heard. It's difficult, but it's a part of what we have to do. So to seek first and then to be understood. That is something that everyone needs to work on. And from James 1:19, we have the scriptures. So then, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. This is very key for families and everything that we do in general. You want to be listening more than you are speaking, because if you are speaking more than you're listening, you're not hearing what's being said. You're not hearing a vast majority of what is being said. We don't listen as we speak also, which is why you want to keep in mind, you want to work towards listening first and then speak. You want to also, the statement, for example, the statement, I cannot understand Amma, she won't listen to me at all.
Okay, so a perfect illustration that I wanted to give, or a good illustration I wanted to use, ASM. The first statement that I want to make is, oh, I cannot understand Amma, she won't listen to me at all.
Or my statement might be, I don't understand my dad, he won't listen to me at all.
And what is the problem with this? We are saying that we seek first to understand, then to be understood. So if the issue we are talking about, and they say, and then she also says that they all kind of maintain because what are we talking about? In effect, as a parent, I'm not listening to her because so be kasa. So that is a challenge that we have in our families. So based on this, it's important for us to be listening to what people say and not be making our minds up before the Bakobi video oka.
So right now we're going to open it up to any questions that anyone may have. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask us outright, and we'll try and answer as many as we can. Yeah, we'll have a couple minutes for that. 3. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Okay. If not, oh, I see. Yes, if you want to ask a question, you can ask it anonymously also in the chat. You don't have to open your mic and say it. So just go ahead and type it and we'll go as we see. If there are no questions, how do you respectfully ask your parents for space? That is a good question. I think it ties back to also understanding who your parents are and where they come from and how you would speak to them. For some households, depending on how the household is, merely just walking away might work for some families. That's acceptable. For other families, it might be, hey, ma, da, I hear what you're saying and I understand that you're frustrated or you're feeling this way, but right now I may need to be alone right now just to get my headspace correct because I'm not feeling great and I don't want to be vocalizing. Sometimes it might be, you might need to leave the house to go. So you might have to say something like, hey, I'm going to go for a walk. So you may not have to outright tell them I need space, but it might be like, I need space, so I'm going to go do something else, if you catching my drift. So it depends on first who your parents are, how that dynamic works, getting them to listen to you. So you want to get to know their character, and then you'll know how to react or how to place things. Because if your parents are very open and understanding of that, for some people, walking away might be okay. For others, you might need to say it outright and be like, hey, I need space. And for others, you might just need an excuse to go do something else.
So the other thing I wanted to add to Amma and the other kind is that having a family and different people, I realize that they are different. You may find somebody in the family, I'm not going to name names, that may talk a lot most of the time. But what happens at times, and then they say, when I realize that their responses are being a little bit catty, yes, no, then it means on your ready to say, that gives me a signal, say, maybe there's something going on. And then after that, I'll come back and then a response changes. Then I have the opportunity to ask what was going on, or whatever. That's what they normally tell you. So those things are also very important. So there are different people in the home. Some of them will be upfront and based on their responses, and you will get to know. Some of them are a challenge. I mean, I have some who are very, very quiet. So it's actually difficult to find out what is going on that is wrong. But But there are some who will always be out here, but then after some time, they decide to go in the room, and if they tell us I'm going to the room, and that they don't want you to know exactly why they're going, for me, it's an indicator, say, Officer ABB and doesn't want to be disturbed. So we need to help our kids out in the home so that we can address this.
Another question we got was, if you are in a disagreement with the parent, what is the best way to diffuse the tension? Again, a lot of these things are going to be specific to families, but I think the first thing that you want to do, and this is with everyone and everything that you do, you want to approach it calmly. If you come with anger or you come with a significant emotion, the person will see that first and respond to that regardless of what you were actually saying. Because people, we don't like to be judged, we don't like to be criticized, we don't like to be pushed down. And when we see someone coming with anger or contempt or anything like that, our first reaction is to defend ourselves. So first you want to come in a calm manner. You want to state exactly what you are feeling. You don't necessarily want to you don't want to point out necessarily what they are doing. So one thing that I learned in school and things that I've learned through life is, instead of using you statements, use I statements instead. So instead of being like, oh, when you do this, you do this, you do that, you make me upset. So maybe when you say things like that, you cause me to be upset and you don't ever listen to me. Instead saying, I feel upset when things like this are done because I feel as though I am misunderstood. You don't want to put the blame necessarily on the person as they're doing it. You want to tell them how you are feeling and how that makes you feel. And I think those things will help with the disagreements. And while you're doing that, you also want to listen to what they're saying. And sometimes the way that they may say things may not be the best, but that doesn't give you a pass or an excuse to respond in the same way. Because if you really want to diffuse the situation, responding to anger with anger is just going to cause more anger. So like if you fight fire with fire, you just cause a bigger fire, and eventually gets to the point where you can't contain that fire. So you don't want to ever come with them with anger or anything like that.
Okay, the other thing I wanted to talk about on this is you have to find out what is the nature of the issue about which you are disagreeing. It is so important for you to be disagreeing on that. That could be how you be able to look at it and diffuse the tension. It's like arguing passionately about some politics or some issue about what the president or somebody has done. Is it really worth it? I don't think you should drag that and cause confusion. So that's why earlier on we said, there's times when the conflict may be unnecessary. And then there are times you have to also to reflect on it and see how it is and look at the person's perspective. Because your worldview is different from the parent's worldview. And the reason why you are disagreeing passionately with the person is you imagine and say the person's worldview is the same as yours. And therefore you don't understand why the person doesn't understand the issue the way you do. So that is a way that if you reflect on that, it helps you to at least move away. But as Amma rightly pointed out, there's no basis for, or responding in kind to some of the things that they have done that are not correct. But politely, there are times you have to ask that, not necessarily a permission, but you state in such a way that more or less like a permission. You have to be away because it cannot continue like that.
Also, was stated advice is that you also need to understand that there is no need for power struggle in a conflict resolution. That's very important. You don't always have to have a power struggle. One person doesn't have to come out on top. A conflict doesn't need to have a winner or a loser. That's not the purpose of the conflict resolution. It's to make sure that you both walk away with peace, that you both walk away at a better position than where you were. You shouldn't be trying to get a step over someone within a conflict, because then no one wins. Like if there's a winner or a loser, then you didn't really gain what you needed to gain.
Yes.
Yeah, with the space at the end, may I agree to some extent about sometimes you need your space. But another concern is only ubi will fee now or require space to be brave all the time. Told us also a little concern. Be an cause or not, or try to push the family away. And obey all man is space, and I thought Anna, based on their parents' experience, they are scared to give you so much space. And I was all my money who say, Ibia, This is the reason why I may share with, because we were experienced with people passing out in the bathroom, my uncle falling down in the bathroom and dying. And she said, "No, we will fear no bathroom, no check. I get kind of scared."
Yeah.
Until I go and I check. Until based on some parents' experience, certain space, they get scared, but you have to let your children know. Mama, my man who said, "So bathroom now, child." I sometimes go and I knock and make sure so I respond to make sure you are okay. To let your children know why sometimes you are kind of, if I say you are intruding into their space out of maybe some experience or some fear, then the children or your kids will understand. Too much space sometimes, children will be depressed. They try to push you away by asking for more space. Before I be about committing suicide. Now when you're aware of what is going on, give space, but let your children know when you have fear about too much space or so.
Thank you. That's a very, very good point. And I think Amma and I discussed this and we said this is very touchy, and I wanted that you address that. So thank you, Auntie B. Saudi Abba. It's very important that we all understand where each person is coming from. I think so at this point, we'll give Eugene the opportunity to move us to the next phase of the program.
Before that, I
okay.
have one question. I think, sir, in our context, the fundamental problem that we have is the Ghanaian American mindset between the parents and the children. How do we deal with that?
I think your first step is to try and understand both cultures, where each one is coming from. So from a child's perspective, try to understand where your parent is coming from the Ghanaian perspective. You have to try and understand where they're coming from that culture. But also from the parents' perspective, you have to understand where your kid is coming from the American culture. Your kid spends a lot of time in school. They spend more time probably away from you in American culture than they do in a Ghanaian culture. You need to understand that culture that they are being raised in also. Because if you don't understand each other's culture, that discomfort and that conflict will always be there. Because the only way you come to a level ground is by understanding and getting on a level playing field. So you may not necessarily agree with everything in the culture, but if you at least know where your kid is going or where the other person is coming from, why they're reacting that way, then you can work towards a common goal and getting the family into the position that you need it into.
So I think that this is a great question because it's Monday, even 2 hours ago. Here, topic on this one. I'm glad I passed the buy. So this part is really important in the sense say the can say so opportunity be between a monk of what can see. That's always very important because it gets to a point where can say what you need a year say Nipakona some all can we need to understand, we need to empathize. I say you appreciate that medical kind earlier on. We appreciate even the effort that the child has made to get where he or she is now. No, it's not that simple. What draw conclusions? We can't say now Juliana, Eugene wife. Now your problem with about sorry, same or no money saying and no sharing with some you church in tree and as in English. I said, Uncle, no, not tree, not in English. No, but some question me feeder. I said, then why are we Ghanaians? Or inti so TSA or per se unya sadia no identify so a Ghanaian. I mean, Papa, I was saying in our country, I want to think, but now or country be as a to give people time and space. With time, they would get to the point where they need to be. But having said that, it's a matter of, I think, mutual respect and understanding and getting to know what OBI experience is and meeting people halfway and supporting each other.
So I think we're going to pass it on to Eugene for the panel. And don't worry, we will get more questions touched on upon during the panel. We'll have more perspectives from different families.
I'm trying to make a question back home. Pastor Opokajo Mpacho, please go ahead and ask the question. But I think it would be good to for Dr. Frimpong, Amma, and Auntie Christie to address that question to the panelists, because question number from Bisan is really good. It would be really good, and that's why we want to have the panel discussion, to be able to address a lot of the questions that are coming through. But Pastor Opokajo, please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, my question is, we define American culture and at the same time define Ghanaian culture and see where we are with our case. That's the question.
Mpacho said, Uncle Frimpong, Amma, did you get that?
Yeah, so defining Ghanaian culture and defining American culture.
Yeah.
I think we can pass that. Is that the question?
We define the two cultures and look at where our kids are so that we can, or our children are, so that we can merge them. If you don't know the definition of the two, it is very hard to merge them.
Okay, Pastor, me say two of my panelists on what can answer, but I just wanted to emphasize something. We did not specifically talk about the Ghanaian culture and talk about the American culture. We understand seeing Ghana for, but what we are trying to distinguish between, and say, you may be a Ghana for a long time, and I've been able to America maybe for another long period of time. Your experience in life is different. You understand more about some of the things that happen in Ghana more than in Ghana. Yeah, acquiring fast chia, acquiring fast year, acquiring fast year, different from the way I been a year. We don't say we talk about funeral, a year celebration. Yeah, then a mix of Ghana, then be more, and America, then Kakrabi. We are talking about them also as Ghanaians, but they were born and bred and raised here. A year who don't mako, a war, a hano, a said about Fusi or ye. In that sort of situation, what we're talking about, and I say, I'm a Ghanaian or Hanum, but there's a lot that, based on even in interaction with our Brofon, we're interacting with our Brofon more and experience in the worldview, we are Brofon more, but still identify as a Ghanaian. It's also the opposite in my case. And that is where we need to understand each other and see where we can have common ground. And then there are times I get to the point where you would realize, and I think we would realize, hey, we need to give them the space to develop to the point where we want them to develop, and then it helps all of us. So I will leave that one to maybe Pastor.
Can I quickly?
Oh yeah, okay,
okay. So before you go, Dr. Frimpong, Amma, and Auntie Christie, we're essentially going into the
yes.
So
we're in already.
I don't need to do anything.
Yeah. So the next question, so when you give the question, we're just gonna give it to the panel as a whole. So
sorry,
just carry on.
But Uncle Fred is going to say something on this, yeah. So
I just wanted to add to Ghanaian culture and American culture. Any differences I want. Maybe dear, yeah. Anytime I hear cancer, I say my very specific examples now. But I'm not depending for United me related to it.
Yes.
For example, many pastor from Dr. Frimpong, and then pending for no be ye did birthday na your birthday soon you fear a big deal. We are Ghanaians and yet a big deal. But so we really free or my waha birthday. Who a problem? A big problem. Or bear in mind you several times, even your chum no crowd, bear in mind you. Some of these things as a pending for no ye who say we say no American culture a big deal. We in Ghanaian culture no and a big deal. Say me obi e yare wa ha say na oba what ha channel ko hwe na obeto flower de akọ. So one na ekwa wonte na ase say wato flower na de ekọ. O de ne se bia obekwa akoto mi lo bia na abeto sikira kan ho de akọ. These are the differences as I say realize say they are real, and when it comes no as I say where people are coming from. So a Ghanaian American or American Ghanaian. The examples and person me and no crowd there say. A man I more American yɛkyɛ mpanimfoɔ no. Nti man birthday kura sɛ wo really fear akɔbɛyɛ sɛ akwadaa no deɛ ne pɛpɛɛpɛ. Ba yɛwɔ Ghana ne needs a problem.
Before we continue our questions, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce everyone in the panel so that we know who we're going to be asking the questions to and who's going to answer them. And when you introduce yourself, if you could just give like when I introduce each one, can you guys give a brief introduction to yourselves? Just talk about yourselves a little, talk about your family dynamic, if whatever you want to say. So for the first set, we have Auntie Gifty and Jason.
Hello.
Hi.
So I'm Gifty and my son. We are the Boisha family.
Mm-hmm.
We are very unique and special. We're loud, but it's okay.
So if you could give yourself, your family, if you could give yourself one word to describe your family, could I get it from both of you? What is one word you think you would use to describe your family?
Special.
Special, okay.
Unique.
Unique, okay. So that is our first set for panelists. The second we have is Dr. Ben and Jemima.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. So
How are you all doing?
we're good. How are you guys doing?
We're good.
Good to hear that. So
Yeah.
just the same thing, anything you want to talk about your family, and then just give one word that you think describes your family the best.
You want to go first? Well, we are from our family. We are who we are, and that's how God made us. That's who we are. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next we have Auntie Selena and JJ.
Hi guys.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm where the doctor is. You said one word to describe a relationship, right?
Yeah.
I say chill.
Chill, okay. Auntie Selena?
She's getting pissed. Like, you don't hear me.
Hi, I'm Selena, and JJ, my son. And I'll say it's a work in progress.
Relatable, very relatable. Our next one is going to be Auntie Rosemary and Emily.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
We are O2 family. I would say that the what makes us unique is everybody in the family is very loud and a little, except this one. She's way different from us, so I don't know.
And Emily, what would you like to say?
I would just say the same thing, that we're kind of, one word I would use to describe us would be opposites.
Oh,
Opposite. Okay.
I like that. I like
Good.
that. Okay, next we have Uncle Seth and Nathaniel.
Yeah.
Hi.
Everyone's our family. One word that describes us: we are very unusual.
All right.
Okay.
And Nathaniel?
Yeah, unusual, complex.
Good words.
I don't understand the unusual part to Mpacho.
So it's a reminder that another member of the family around.
And we can be comedians too, so.
Okay.
And we have Pastor Foom and Kristen.
Hi, my name is Pastor Enoch Afum. With me is
Kristen,
my last baby. But she's no longer a baby. She's 21 now. So she's a big girl. And we are very united family.
Okay.
That's how I would describe ourselves. Very united.
Good word, good word. And Kristen, what's your word?
we're blessed. We're pretty blessed over here.
All right. So I think we've all heard a little bit from each of the families. So I think we're going to start off with a question that's just, to start it off, what is your favorite thing about your relationship? So I'm just going to have everyone say a little thing about what their favorite thing about their dynamic or the relationship with the parent and the child is within their household. So if we could start with Auntie Rosemary and Emily.
The question is, my favorite, would you mean me and Emily or the whole family?
The whole family.
The whole family.
Everybody. Well, it's how we can get together. It doesn't matter how anybody, like, let's say Saturday evening, we have this TV shows that everybody, we can get together and laugh and tease, and we can be, you know, in one room and there will be no argument or anything like that. So I think, yeah, that's my favorite part of it. How about you?
I would like to say that for the younger side, I think that one of the things that I enjoy is how open we are with each other. And that did not just happen, you know, over the years now. I have seen that as we have all grown and matured through our relationships now, we are now more open with each other. And that's one thing that I'm enjoying now.
Okay, thank you. Glad to hear that.
And one word I can use to describe it is we are very transparent. We don't have secrets.
Okay.
When we want to take you to the cleanest, we can really make fun of you.
And Dr. Ben and Jemima, can we also hear what your favorite thing is too?
Yeah, your favorite part, your family enjoy the first thing is we like to enjoy each other. When we have everybody in the house, that is an interesting part we really and even say obi cry if ye na cry with school or semi war or money free school beba and I say be na word me na be so my back. That kind of relationship ni wo and the time and we want to make sure say even you need depending on maybe a crano we still stay united. Na yetimi frey home and that kind of relationship na I enjoy each other no enye fie kwa baby e will be ano ayana eboa for example say me two kwan na say many o man ye teleconference asana o makwa just say myself or more than so goes to tell you say we like to stay united, enjoy each other all the time.
We also like to do Bible quizzes to help us understand what we learned from the Bible each evening when we're doing devotion.
Okay.
That's good.
And Jason and Auntie Gifty?
All right. We love to spend time together and cook together because I love to cook. So whenever I'm cooking, my husband wants to join in, the kids want to join. So, and sometimes he want to lead. He's not very good, but he tries.
Okay. Jason, what about you? What's your favorite?
What do you want?
I don't know.
That's fair. That's fair. You might just have a lot of things that you like, and that's okay too. And can't forget about JJ and Auntie Selena.
My favorite part in our relationship is being able to communicate with each other and also know where each other's are. So that's my favorite part.
Okay. And JJ, do you want to add something?
I'll just say, I guess a part that I enjoy, I don't know if it's my favorite. I don't think I'll say my favorite, but a part that I do enjoy is that we respect each other's like privacy in terms of space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And Kristen and Pastor Film?
We are blessed. I have a son and 2 daughters, and over the years, and I think that every home deserves this point that I'm going to make. The first thing that every house deserves is a peace of mind. When there is peace at home, then everything that you pursue, everything that you do, if you're going to be a good Christian, you need peace. For school, you need peace. And we have really enjoyed peace in our home. Hardly do you find us fighting over anything. Hardly. You would think that the girls will go after each other, but hardly do they do that. And so we have been very, very blessed in terms of enjoying peace at home. My wife and Kate, in the case, we really enjoy that. Kristen?
To go off that too, our home is very open. The dialogue is open. Our communication is open. I don't think there's ever been a time where I've held back from my parents, especially when me and my mom talk. We're very open. We sit down in the living room and we can just talk. So our dialogue is very, it's like she's my parent, but we're all friends as well too. So that's probably my favorite thing about our family dynamic.
Okay. Thank you for that. Now, to kind of hit on it, I'm going to ask the kids first. If you got into trouble, how do you think your parent would respond? So if you got into a big trouble, what's an example of a big problem that might arise that you think of?
You get arrested.
Sure. For the older folks, we can do
exactly.
Get arrested.
And,
for the younger, you might be able to do suspended from school or something like that. Or
exactly.
How do you think your parent would respond to that?
My parents are very level-headed. Like he said, car accident. I had a little one a couple months ago, and I called him ASAP. I didn't even call police. I called my dad first. And he was so level-headed. He's just calm down. We'll get it fixed. I came home. I spoke to my mom. I'm crying. She's just a car is just a material thing. Your life is what's most important. You still have your life. We can get the car fixed. So whatever big trouble is, even if it's something regarding school, they're very level-headed, especially when it comes to school too. My dad is a doctor. Any issues I have with school, I can just come to him and I can get all the help that I need.
Thank you for that. Anybody else want to add on to it?
Go ahead. You're next.
It sounded like
we want you to talk. We want to hear you.
You're next.
Mr. Jason?
I think Emily's on mute.
Good.
Mr. Jason.
When you get in trouble in school, my mom's just gonna talk and we can figure something out.
But I was mad first, right?
And just the last question I'm going to ask on this is, for the parents, how do you decide when to give tough love and when to not? So when do you decide to get tough and when to be a little bit more lenient with things?
So Jemima wanted to say something, then I will take on the second one that you just asked.
Okay, go ahead.
My parent would respond by saying, you shouldn't do it again, but this time I'll forgive you. Next time there might be a little consequence.
Well, that leads me to what you just asked. For the first time, if I realize, depending on the situation, sometimes I'm a little lenient, like she said. I will ask that for the first time, this is, don't do that. If you repeat it, this might be the consequences. And then I would discuss with them the reason why. I told them, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. Once the agreement is there, sometimes they are kids, maybe they love doing that. They might go back and do that again. And then sometimes I also know some of the things they like. So we will have to decide whether you continue to do that. Again, it depends on the situation. But these are things which won't get them into trouble, but I just don't want them to develop that. And I'm trying to also move them in a different direction. So then I will have to stuff placed before them and then ask them, if you keep doing that, you will not be getting this that you like so much. I know the thing you like is good, but at the same time, I'm also trying to help you avoid the whatever I think you might be getting yourself into. And sometimes one interesting thing is, depending on the situation, we sit down and vote. Unfortunately, when I introduced this voting system in the house, I have never won. My wife and I never won. They are three. So once they realize they like that, they always come back, okay, Daddy, if you don't want us to do that, let's vote. So sometimes, because I also want them to understand that part, I accept that I lose. So I've been losing. So then I have to get different strategies also to help. But again, if it's something bad that I don't want to encourage them to do, sometimes I ask them, hey, sit here for some minutes, or you won't use this for a couple of hours, or you are not going to get that. So it depends on the situation. It depends on the problem. And we have different ways of addressing them, and some of them are those that I've just mentioned. Do you like the voting system?
Yes.
Let me come in here.
Mm-hmm.
We show tough love not for the sake of just showing tough love, but we show tough love for teaching our kids some lessons. I remember vividly when we started having family plans, these telephone plans. I got all the kids, I got them phones, and I told them, these are your phones. I want you to use them wisely. At the end of the month, when my bill came, it was $1,000. They were browsing and chatting and doing it. And you know what I did? I just wrote a note and I put the bill beside the note and I said, please leave your phone here. When I came, all the phones were down there. And ever since that day, I have not given them phone myself. My wife, on the other hand, went ahead and signed a family thing with them. And now she's in trouble. So we teach tough love when it comes to teaching tough love, so that we may be able to teach a lesson. And we want the kids listening to understand this, not just because our parents are trying to just to be difficult, but there comes a time when we need to really show you tough love.
Amma, can I add something to this?
Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of how my parents would respond when I get into trouble. I don't know if some of you would remember, but I got spanking. I've gotten spankings from my parents, both of them. So that was one way they would use to respond to me, doing something that I'm not supposed to do, as a way. And I thought that was tough love. But I don't know. I wanted to ask the parents here if are any of them also spanking their kids here in America? How this, how this country operates? Auntie Gifty, I'm looking at you.
Yes. Yes. The Bible says, spare the rod and spoil the child. So it depends on the situation. Like when they were little, yes, I will. But now they're spending more, especially Jason. We can reason together now. So we do a lot of talking. I mean, sometimes I'm really harsh depending on the situation. But after that, I have to calm down and then revisit it in a calm way so that it won't happen again. But yes, when you deserve the benkuta, it's coming.
That's right. I agree.
You agree, Saint?
Well, I have my kids are the age difference is huge. I have Emily, which is 16, and I have Daniel and Elijah, which is like 10 and 8. So Emily, it's different. I don't know. I never had a problem with Emily. Maybe I will say something, but when it comes to Daniel and Elijah, that is different. So I cannot compare Daniel with Emily, which we were discussing that this afternoon. Like, he keeps saying, you beat me up, but you never beat Emily up. Well, Emily would never, when I said, sit here, you come back and find my daughter sitting there. But don't blink your eye, that Elijah is gone. So how would I deal with these two different people?
Different treatments.
Yes. So yes, I used to do that, but I don't do it again. I don't beat them again because I think at this time I can talk to them, two of them together, and we sit down and we had these family meetings that we can talk for hours because Daniel wants to share his opinion for maybe 5 hours. So he will just go on and on and on and on. But yeah, we have family meetings and I think that is working for me right now. So the beating is not really, I'll just kind of do that.
Yeah, so one thing I would like to add is, it's interesting, but that's what I have been doing, and me and my wife, and I think it's helping. When we realize that they do something very bad, that is when we don't get angry for some reason. Maybe initially I was, but some years back, I realized that if they've done something really bad, that they really feel that, this is going to create a problem, that is when we realize that we are not going to be that harsh, angry at them, because already we realize they are aware of the situation, and then we just pull them aside and then address the issue. We realize that it's been helping, that those days when they were little kids, and then maybe you were not responsible, you left your phone there, and then you gave them the opportunity to destroy your phone. Now you get angry. We realize that in such situations, we don't get angry at them, but we try to find out what led to that. And we realize that it's been helping, and they love it. But in some way, it's helped them become more responsible because they know once they do something bad, the consequence will be there.
If no one has anything else to add, we're going to pass it on to Auntie Christina to continue on with the panel discussion.
Dr. Nkrumah, with that said, I think I would start with you on how has your parenting style changed over the years, and has it even changed, if I should begin the question that way?
Yeah, Christy, thanks. You know me very much, so yeah, it's changed. Yeah, and like I was saying, initially, when they were coming up, they would do something wrong. I was trying to, the Bible says we should, those kind of things will come to mind. Na afi magini abaso diameni yadiyemi. In those days, na mwa mi brana misa. So I decided, say, mimfasa enye emofran, and that's the more reason why when I realized, so mo ya pa eye serious, then I rather take the responsibility upon myself. Say, part ben amemaya I contribute to almost ama my sadian. And it's been changing. It been the introduction of the voting system. No, a woman who say decision shouldn't be by me, even in as much as say Diana or Mohishano. Of course, that's not what we're talking about here. But Adiebia Ebwa, and that has helped them to help in the decision process, because I don't want to be the one, or my wife to be the one to make decisions here. So sometimes that's how. So people know the relationship at that name of friend. And they use as a one word, but they are very difficult for me to choose one word, because every good word that's what we think we are, because and people who know us, they know our background, right? And every good word we are say okay, is what our family is about. But I'm not saying say be a but over the years, we try to identify where the problems are. We make changes along the way, and those are the few ones I can say for now. Thanks.
Okay, so I started with the youngest, going on the oldest. Mr. Ebubansra, how would you describe your parenting style over the years?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one for me. Let me say, it's been a journey, not much of change, but much of maturity and more application of principles. So I don't have like any poster with my principles on the wall or something for anybody to say this is Dad's principles. But it's something that I live them. I live the principles. So all the children know me, and sometimes even Junior, the youngest, will come to me, say, Dad, I want to ask you this question, but I know what you are going to say. You see, it's like, because I work with certain principles, he knows that if this thing comes up, this is how Dad is going to react. So he comes asking the question just for validation, looking forward if I would change from what he knows. Okay. So it's like what I said initially, being very transparent in terms of the principles I live with, which I expect other children to also adopt based on whatever Christian training that we have. So that's what I would say. It's not something like a change over time, but it's something like maturity over time based on more development of the principles that I want them to share. And it's because of my professional background also, development. I want something that will be sustainable for them. It's not that because I'm there that they are applying it. And when I'm not there, they should be able to apply it.
Okay. How about you, Selena?
Can you come again, please?
Your parenting style over the years, has it changed? Are you still implementing the same strategies, and is it working?
I'll say my parenting style has been somewhat consistent, but a little bit relaxed over the years as the kids started growing up. I'll say I'll describe myself as giving tough love all the time. Maybe due to how I grew up, because I started boarding school when I was 5 years old, and leaving home at that tender age, I'll say I wasn't really privileged to experience the kindergarten life throughout the primary years that other kids get to enjoy by having relaxed rules. In school, I was expected to do things in an orderly manner and expected to accomplish this in a certain way. So I'll say that actually influenced my growing up, and I also expect my kids to be able to do things in a certain way. But as time go up and I'm realizing that they are growing and my lifestyle is different from their lifestyle, so I'm bending the rules and on teaching myself. I was so glad when Amma said it in her presentations, that you have to unteach yourself in certain ways. So it's a work in progress, and I think it's going on very well. So, but overall, my parenting style, I would say I'm a little strict, but at the same time open to communication. So,
okay. Yeah, Mrs. Otu.
Hi. I think as I think there's some difference from when they were young and now. Saying that because now I can talk to Emily about something that Daniel and Elijah have done, and we can come up with why they did it. And before I get so angry or I get mad at them, I already discussed it with her, and she will come up with their side of, explain their side, the reason why they did it. And lately we've been leaving two of them at home a lot. And I was complaining this morning how the house is dirty and they leave things everywhere. And then she said, but realize that the two of them have been in the house a lot. So nobody is controlling them. Those are the things that she would do. And it makes me change, my thinking will change. Okay, wow, I haven't realized that. So what do I need to do? So then I'll get up and go clean it myself, because maybe if I were home, I manage my time a little bit, it would not be that way. So yes, it have changed as they're growing, as I'm able to reason with them, as I scream a lot because, like Selena said, I grew up with a lot of boys, and with my grandmother, who is like, she will curse you from A to Z, and I felt like I'm doing the same thing. Sometimes I have to kind of pinch myself, and at the same time, my son Daniel will point it out to you. You asked me to do something and you're insulting me. To me, I thought maybe I'm trying to, so he would turn back and said, you just insult me. You want me to sweep the floor and you are insulting me? Well, to me, it's normal. But then when he said that, I will think of it like, oh my God, I'm becoming like my grandmother. So that's how my parenting came.
Okay, thank you so much. How about you, Auntie Gifty?
So I have been consistent, but as they get older, you just change the way you approach things, because talking to a 2-year-old is different, how you're going to explain certain things. And then now Jay is 11, so we can actually sit and plan. So there are not kind of rules, but there are some expectations and some consequences. So, I mean, if they drift from it, we go back and revisit it, and so it's been consistent, but the approach that I use is kind of different.
Thank you. Pastor Fum, we would like you to put a cherry on the question. You seem to be a veteran in this department. So can you help us with how you have changed over the years?
I have tried to be authoritative.
Okay.
But I see also some permissiveness, so when it comes to me, I have a soft side with them. So I'm a little bit permissive in that sense, but I'm always authoritative. But like everybody has said, as they grow, your style changes. And you see, and that is the point earlier on when I asked Dr. Frimpong. You see, you cannot give what you don't have.
Absolutely.
And we often give what we have. And what we are trying to give our kids here in this country is what we received back home. And now we are catching ourselves. If you listen to all the answers that have been given, we are catching ourselves. We are knowing that those styles won't work with these children and we need to make some adjustments. And so everybody is trying to make an adjustment. But for me, I've always tried to be authoritative, but then, you know, I allow some permissiveness to also linger around so that we can be all around.
Okay. Dr. Frimpong, can you please take over the next section?
Dr. Frimpong, sorry, just before you continue. So at this point, we're actually going to stop the live streaming, just so everyone can feel comfortable for us to speak as a church family. So we've had the presentation, so we're gonna just giving you a heads up that we're stopping the live streaming now as well.
Okay, thank you. That sounds good.
So do we have permission to speak Chi now? That we are not live streaming?
Whatever you want to speak.
I'm just kidding.
we are discussing healthy families, and one thing I wanted to bring up now for the panel to share their views is, what is the most important thing to do to have a good relationship with your parents and other family members? I will start with the kids. And for those of us who have not noted, we have differences in the age of the panel members. The kids that we have from very little ones to the one middle age and then young adults. So what is the most important thing to do to have a good relationship with your parents and other family members? Let's start with the kids.
First, you need to talk about like anything that you can talk to like a family member. If you have a problem or something.
Yeah, like Jason is saying, I think one of the most important things is communication. I feel like what causes initial problems within the household is a miscommunication when things aren't being explained correctly or not explained at all
properly.
And it builds tension within the household until everyone finally explodes and it turns into a bigger problem. So if from the jump, if we're able to communicate with one another, that's also very important.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree, because like if there's something that doesn't make you like feel so comfortable, and like if there's something that you don't really like, you should try talking it out to like make it like a little better so that you'll feel like you'll feel comfortable, and so that you can have a better relationship. And you should try and like be like talkative, and like you shouldn't like try to hide something that doesn't make you feel right.
Along with communication, I would say that understanding where the other person is coming from, because like the slideshow said, everybody is different and everybody came from a different upbringing and have different experiences.
So thank you for these perspectives, but I think that as there's more to this issue that I wanted us to address. I'm glad that Emily, Jason, Jemima, you are being forthright and telling us a lot of things, but maybe I'm not going to put any of you on the spot, but is it possible that as parents, we feel that we're listening to our kids, but we're not listening to them? Can anybody give an example, any experience or any instance where we thought that in our hearts we're actually listening, but based on the feedback that our kids may have given us or continue to give us, we realize we're not listening to them?